yo-yo champion. It's true, my mom is proud. We're going to learn some yo-yo tricks today, and a lot of people think that yo-yoing is hard, but in reality, all you have to do is know the right things to do. I'm going to teach you the right ways to do it, the easy ways, the shortcuts, so let's get started and learn some yo-yo tricks. Every yo-yo comes with a solid loop out at the end of the string. If I tried to use this loop to hold the yo-yo while I'm doing tricks, chances are it's not going to stay on there. So you need to make a slip knot. You make the slip knot by opening up the solid loop. You fold the string over, you pull the rest of the string through that loop, and now you have a one-size-fits-all slip knot that goes right below the last digit on your middle finger. The first trick you're going to learn is the gravity pull. This is the basic trick. This is what a lot of people think of when they just think of yo-yoing in general. This is where you start. You hold the yo-yo in your hand, you push it down. Before it gets to the end of the string, you pull it back up again. So gravity pulls it down, you pull it back up. When doing this trick, it's important to pull on the yo-yo string before the yo-yo gets all the way to the bottom. What you're doing is giving the yo-yo enough spin to get all the way back up to your hand. And it's perfectly okay to catch with both hands if you like. Now that you've learned the gravity pull, I don't want you to ever do it again. From now on, you're going to throw the yo-yo the cool way, the power throw, also known as the throwdown. And for this trick, there are 4 steps. You want to make sure you've got the yo-yo in your hand the correct way. You start with your palm up. You make sure you've got the string going from your finger to the top of the yo-yo. If you have the string going from your finger underneath, when you throw it, you tend to get a sick helicopter, and that's no good. So you make sure you've got the yo-yo in your hand correctly. String going from your finger up to the top of the yo-yo. You're going to cock your wrist, you lift your elbow. This lets you use the bigger muscles in your back rather than just in your arm. Step 3 is you throw it, and step 4, you turn your hand over to catch. So it looks like this. Cock your wrist, lift your elbow, throw, then turn. The most common mistake with the power throw is that people will turn their hand over while they're throwing the yo-yo. And when you do that, it spins on its side. It just doesn't work. So when you do the power throw, make sure that you let that yo-yo roll all the way off the ends of your fingertips before you turn your hand over to catch it. After you've learned the throwdown, the next trick is the forward pass. And for this, you want the yo-yo in your hand the same way. Make sure the string is going from your finger up to the top of the yo-yo. You turn your arm all the way around behind you. You keep your arm totally straight. You only move your shoulder. And you don't hold on to the yo-yo. The yo-yo is just going to be cradled in your hand. You whip your arm forward and stop. The way it looks is like that. The most common mistake that people make with the forward pass is that they hold on to the yo-yo. That doesn't work real well. You've got to make sure that your arm comes out from underneath. If I take the string off my finger and do the forward pass with the same motions, where do you think the yo-yo is going to go? Mostly people think it'll go out there, but in reality, it stays right down there on the floor. So make sure you don't hold on to the yo-yo, just swing your hand out from underneath it, and then turn your palm up to catch. The outside loop is a very easy next step from the forward pass. Instead of catching the yo-yo again, you're going to push it out a second time. So the hand motion is just a little push. Send it out a second time and catch it. You can do it a little bit bigger. Just make sure you get your hand in the way and catch it. After the outside loop comes the inside loop. And we call the outside loop by that name because if you hold both your hands out in front of you, it goes on the outside of your hand. The inside loop goes on the inside. So it looks like that. And that motion for that is it's like you're telling the yo-yo to come here and go away. Sometimes people think they're going to get hit in the face with this trick. If you do it right, you won't get hit because the yo-yo is winding up. And when it comes at you, it's actually wound almost all the way up to your hand. Give it a try. Don't break anything. The trick that everyone wants to learn is the sleeper. Partly because it's cool and it leads to a lot of other yo-yo tricks, but mostly because it's the trick that leads you into walk the dog, which is probably everyone's favorite yo-yo trick. There are 3 tips or tricks that help make the sleeper easy. But before you even start working on it, you got to make sure your yo-yo will actually spin at the end of the string. They're all designed to do that, but you got to make sure yours works. So the tips are, 1, you keep your wrist loose. 2, when you lift your arm up to throw, get your elbow up above your nose. That makes it so you can use the big muscles in your back and shoulders rather than just the muscles in your arm. And then 3 is you throw the yo-yo forward so it'll swing at the end of the string. Because if you throw it straight down, it might bounce right back up and wind up to your hand. So here we go. Wrist loose, elbow up above the nose. I'm going to throw out in front of me. And then to get it back up to your hand, you give it a tug. There you go. Once you can throw a consistent sleeper that spins for a pretty long time, now you're ready to do walk the dog. You throw it down, you get the yo-yo spinning. The only thing you have to do is set the yo-yo gently on the ground, let it spin, carry the yo-yo out in front of you. Keep a little bit of tension on the string, and when you're ready for it to come back, give it a tug. Your dog is walked. When you're walking the dog, the surface you're walking on does make a difference. If you've got a really nice, expensive yo-yo, I wouldn't recommend walking on concrete. Carpet is the best. It gives you a little bit of slip, a little bit of traction. It's pretty hard to walk the dog on grass, although it can be done. And the experts believe that walking the dog on the grass is the best for house training. But for your yo-yo, I'd stick to carpet. Now it's time to learn Rock the Baby. This is one of the great classic tricks and one that everyone wants to see. The way you do it is you throw a good fast sleeper, you make a triangle out of the string, and you rock the baby right through it. Of course, when you're learning, you're going to do it a whole lot slower, and that's fine. Take the time to set it up as you need to, and as long as you threw the yo-yo hard enough, it'll still have enough steam to come back. Now let's go through the steps. The steps for Rock the Baby are you drape the string over your fingers and thumb, you grab the string a little more than halfway down, you bring your triangle down, and rock the yo-yo through it. A good practice goal is 3 full rocks. That's 3 times forward and back, which is what you'd need in a contest. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. See how many you can do. If you want to be a world yo-yo champion, you got to make sure that you work out both arms. Check out this trick. You ready? That's right. Now I'm going to teach you the lead-in step to Around the World. Before you can get to that trick, you need to learn the breakaway. And for the breakaway, you want to start with the yo-yo in your hand the same way that you do for the power throw. You've got the string going from your finger up to the top of the yo-yo. You want to make a muscle, like you're a guy, say, at the gym. You're going to throw the yo-yo straight out, let it spin at the end of the string, swing all the way down from one shoulder to the other shoulder before you pull it back. So it looks like this. Once you can do the breakaway, Around the World is the next step. You do the same thing, you just swing the yo-yo all the way around in a full circle. So you make a muscle once again, throw the yo-yo straight out, let it swing at the end of the string all the way around. And I like to teach Around the World with the yo-yo going in front of the body, because that way you're less likely to hit anyone. You can also do the trick where you throw the yo-yo straight out in front and it swings around behind you, but there's a much better chance of breaking somebody or something that you didn't see behind you. So for this version, we'll start with the muscle, throw it out, all the way around, and back to your hand. For the trapeze, it's an extension of doing the breakaway or Around the World. For the breakaway, you throw the yo-yo straight out, it goes from one shoulder to the other, you pull it back. For the trapeze, it's that same trick, but you stick your finger in the way so that the yo-yo will land on the string. I make it look easy. This is going to take some practice, but the most important tip is to get your finger as close to the yo-yo as possible, because that gives it as little leeway as possible for landing on the string. If I try to catch the yo-yo way out here, there's almost no way I'm going to be able to hit it. But if I can get really close, it should just pop right on there. Up to this point, all the tricks have been with a fixed axle yo-yo. Now I want to show you a trick with a ball bearing yo-yo. And ball bearing yo-yos have become really popular because they spin longer and makes it easier to do tricks. Now the downside is they do cost more. Ball bearing yo-yo usually starts at about twice the price of a high quality fixed axle yo-yo. The trick that I'm going to show you is called the brain twister. And the way it works is you throw a good fast sleeper. You pick the string up with your non-throwing hand. You take the string from your throwing hand, you put it in the gap. Bring your throwing hand out in front. You want to push the string with your middle finger, and you're going to push the yo-yo so it goes up your nose. That's the easy way to remember it. This trick goes up your nose. You do one somersault, and that's the official trick. But because it's a ball-bearing yo-yo, you can do several, and you can keep going. Get out of it, and you're done. Let's watch in slow motion. One important thing to keep in mind when you're playing with a yo-yo is yo-yo safety. And the most important thing with yo-yo safety is to make sure that while you're practicing, there's no one or nothing inside what's called your circle of danger. And the circle of danger is the distance between you and the end of your yo-yo string. So you want to make sure there are no people, there's nothing breakable inside that circle, because the only head that should be inside your circle of danger is your own head. Let me give you some practice tips. It's important to have everything set up the way you want it to be when you're going to practice your yo-yo tricks. And the first thing is you got to make sure that you're in a good space. If you're not sure if you're in the right kind of area, it's a good idea to ask mom or dad. You want someplace where there's plenty of room, you're not going to run into anything, you're not going to break anything, most importantly. When you're practicing, you want to make sure you have a good quality yo-yo. If you go to the dollar store, you're probably not going to get a very good yo-yo. But really, any brand name yo-yo will be good, and you want to make sure your string is in good shape. When you're practicing, it's important to stick to it. You've got to keep at it, you've got to work on something. There are very few tricks that people get on the first try. I make everything look really easy, but it's because I've had years and years to practice. Some days I'll spend a lot of time at it, some days I won't spend any, but you definitely have to stick to it. One of the ways that you can practice easily, and it's the way I started, is keep your yo-yo with you. Yo-yos are small. You can put it in your pocket, put it in your backpack, your bag, whatever. And that way when you're waiting for the bus, or you're waiting in line at the DMV, whatever you're waiting to have happen, you've got a yo-yo with you, you can kill some time. It's great. And speaking of which, if you are practicing, especially if you practice a lot, if you get frustrated with the trick or frustrated with yo-yoing in general, it's a good time to stop. Just take a little break, you can come back to it, and when you're more relaxed, it'll probably work better anyway. One more thing. Sometimes when you yo-yo, especially if you do it for a long time, your finger can get a little uncomfortable where the string sits. One of the things that you can do to combat that is take a Band-Aid or a piece of first aid tape and wrap it around where the string goes and put the string right on over the tape. It'll keep your finger much more comfortable, and it's good for long-term yo-yoing. All yo-yo players get something that's called spaghetti string. That's when your string gets all tangled up against itself. And there's two ways to get rid of this. One way is you can let the yo-yo dangle down and let it turn until it stops. Or a quicker way is you can take the string off your finger, pull the string down, and let it do its little hula dance until it fixes itself. And now you're ready to go. Sometimes when you go to wind a yo-yo, you have trouble getting it to start. The string will just go around and round without actually catching. There are two things you can do to take care of that. One is you can hold the string really loosely and hopefully it'll catch on the axle. And if that doesn't work, you can always do the finger wind, where you wind over your finger once, you go under 2 or 3 times, pull your finger out of that loop, and then wind up the rest of the way. Once you get it all wound up, you'll want to throw it straight down to clear the string loop out of the gap. I want to show you a couple of yo-yo winding methods. When you first start out, it can get kind of boring winding the yo-yo back up, but there are a couple of neat tricks that you can do to make it a little easier. One of them is you can hold your throwing arm up in the air, you hold the yo-yo with your other hand, you put your thumb right on the gap, right on the string. You push down with your bottom hand, pull up with your top hand, and you can get the yo-yo to wind up a little bit, so then you can yo-yo it back up the rest of the way to your hand. In this wind, my foot serves the same role as my thumb did in the last one. This is called the stomp wind, and it works because my foot gets the yo-yo spinning by shooting it out from the carpet. When you do this, make sure you don't actually stomp on your yo-yo and break it, and I wouldn't recommend doing this trick on concrete. You may have noticed that at the end of the spaghetti string demo there's a fantastic winding method called the snap wind. It's not an easy one, it takes some practice, but the way it works is you hold the string taut, you hold the yo-yo between your thumb and your first and middle fingers. You're going to give it a good turn. If you do it hard enough, it'll actually snap. But the secret is you want to pop the yo-yo up into the air and bring your hand toward the yo-yo so that you use that small amount of spinning energy to wrap all that string up. In this example, I pop the yo-yo up in a perfect arc so it goes straight to my waiting catching hand and I don't even have to move it.
You crazy mother!